Welcome to Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Weldin. Today's story is called Cats and Robbers, an adaptation of a Welsh myth written for you by Daniel Hinds. Thanks. Enjoy the episode. Cats and Robbers. Once upon a time, in a misty forest deep in the country of Wales, there was a cozy little inn called the Cat's Paw. It sat at a crossroads, the kind of quiet, in-between place for travelers with important business in far-flung directions. The inn was like a beacon, with fire warming its windows and smoke curling like a comma from the chimney. It was surrounded by a tiny herb garden, and one could hear chickens clucking about in the back and smell them roasting in the front. A few turns away, a young man with a short red beard took a deep breath. The misty forest smell, deep and old as mossy bones, mixed with the chicken cooking, told him he was nearing his destination. "Seems like someone is just about done cooking dinner," he said, slapping his ample stomach. "I better not keep them waiting." The man was named Hugh, and he was the seventh son of a seventh son, which meant he had a natural sort of magic about him. Some called him a sorcerer, or a mage, or an enchanter, but Hugh thought of himself as a wizard, and a good one at that. Good meaning both skilled, but also kind. When he could, Hugh liked to use his power to solve mysteries and help others, which is what led him to the Cat's Paw Inn to begin with. The inn, famous for being a comfortable place to rest in a wide and weary wood, had been having problems as of late. It seemed that some people who stayed there woke up to find out that they'd been robbed. The owners of the inn, a lovely pair of twin sisters, had changed all the locks and provided every bit of security they could manage, but the robberies continued. Now, robberies weren't usually Hugh's area of expertise, but this one had taken an interesting turn. The local sheriff had done an investigation and found the robberies ignored locked doors and barred windows and everything else. Some suspected the owners themselves may be using secret doors, but they found no such doors in their search. Still, the sheriff kept the sisters locked in a wagon for a night. But the robberies continued anyway. People were beginning to whisper about ghosts and magic, and those definitely were Hugh's area of expertise. He had come to solve the mystery of the Cat's Paw Inn, and as he rounded one final bend in the rutted road, he came upon the inn and all its glory. "Here at last," Hugh said, walking down the cobbled path. He tried the front door and found it open, so he entered into a cozy common room, a bar and kitchen to one side. It was all well-worn wood with homey touches, lit by cheery candles and smelling of chicken roasted with turnips and thyme and— was that rosemary? Hugh sniffed at the air as an older woman emerged from a door behind the bar. "Hello, traveler," she said. She was a beautiful woman, all dark hair and eyes, laugh lines creasing her cheeks like whiskers. "I'm Katrin, and I run this little home away from home." "Charmed to meet you. I'm Hugh, and I'm on the road from hither heading my way yon. I've got 2 questions for you." "Let's hear 'em," said Katrin. "How much for dinner and a bed? And is that rosemary in the chicken?" Katrin laughed, and another woman came out from the back, carrying a steaming bowl. She looked exactly like Katrin, except her hair was going silver at the temples. "I'm Kathy, the other owner, and this one's prettier twin sister," she said, jerking a thumb at Katrin. "It's a king's coin for a bed, and I'll throw in the dinner for free since you've got a good nose on you. It's rosemary from the garden out back. Picked it just this afternoon." Hugh fished out a coin and slid it across the bar. He had many other coins in his purse, and they jingled musically. "A good deal. Here you are." Katrin swept the coin off the bar, and Kathy served him the bowl of roast chicken with mashed turnips and herbs. She got a bit of grease on the back of her hand and licked it absent-mindedly. "Smells incredible," Hugh said. "Tastes even better," Katrin said. Hugh dug in and was happy to discover that she was right. The food was delicious, and Hugh chewed slowly while others came in and out of the common room. There were a couple of soldiers looking for a meal, an older woman who had a room upstairs and came down for some tea, and a few other trappers from the woods who came in for some food and ale. The crowd grew a bit thicker as dinner time came and went. None of them seemed like thieves, and when it came down to it, none of them seemed very magical either. If Hugh wanted to catch the thief of the cat's paw inn, he was going to need bait, and he'd have to use the only bait he had, himself. Standing up, he jingled his full purse again, letting a few coins fall to the ground. "Sorry," he said, stooping as they clattered and rolled under chairs. "Excuse me." He snatched up the coins and dropped them back into his purse, making sure everyone could see how full it was. "I'd better start tying this darn thing tighter." He ignored the many stares directed his way and stumbled over to the bar. "Katrin," he said, waving her over. "I was wondering if I might get a bottle of water to take to bed with me." "Of course," Katrin said, moving to fill up a clay jug. "And one other thing," Hugh said. "I've heard rumors that people staying here, that they get robbed. Is that true?" Katrin's lip pulled back and she let out an angry hiss. "Rumors," she said. "Someone is trying to ruin our business. Last year it was witches. This year we have thieves. People around here just don't like two sisters running an inn. If we were brothers, they'd probably leave us alone." "Maybe so," said Hugh, taking up the jug of water. "Good night now." Hugh turned to the stairs and made his way to bed. Once he was in his room, Hugh locked and barred the door and then locked the window shutters as well. The normal locks accounted for, Hugh reached inside for his magic, and Hugh the Traveler was suddenly Hugh the Wizard, fingertips growing softly with power. He traced around the room and muttered spells, but there was nothing. No magic portals, no stealing spells. How were the thieves getting in? It was a mysterious question, but Hugh thought he might have an idea as to the answer. Hours later, Hugh lay in his bed, snoring softly. He wasn't really asleep, but he was very good at pretending. He had the blankets pulled up to his chin and his eyes mostly closed, cracked just enough that he could see through his lashes. His gaze was focused on the chimney, and soon there came a gentle scraping noise. Hugh snored. Suddenly, quiet as a shadow, a dark figure dropped into the fireplace. A moment later, it was joined by a second. Hugh watched, his suspicions confirmed, as two cats prowled out of the shadows of the fireplace. They were small cats, both girls, with short fur colored a dark and smoky gray. They seemed identical, except one had silver fur around its mouth and whiskers. They purred softly and began to weave their way around the room. One started wrestling with the dangling straps of his backpack. The other hopped up on the bed. Hugh quickly shut his eyes tight and waited as he felt little feet pad up his chest. He let out another fake snore, feeling cat whiskers tickle his cheeks as it leaned in, making sure he was really asleep. Satisfied, the cat leapt down again, and Hugh peeked out through his lashes. There was a soft thump as the cats knocked his bag off the hook on the wall, and then a rustle as they undid the straps. Soon they had pulled it open, and they were pulling out his clothes and the rest. There was a happy meow when they finally found his coin purse, heavy and jingling full. They grabbed the ends of the drawstrings in their mouths and then leapt around each other to untie the knot. It fell apart, and bright golden coins spilled out onto the ground. Meow. Robberies indeed, thought Hugh to himself. He shifted in bed, pretending to be just waking up. "Oh, hello? Is someone there?" Fast as a flash, the cats snagged the bag of coins and disappeared into the chimney. Had Hugh not watched the whole thing, he'd hardly have believed it at all. Were the cats trained thieves? Hugh thought it was possible, but not likely. There was another explanation, one more magical, but far more likely. As soon as the sun was up, Hugh headed to the common room and sat himself at the bar. He sat for an hour before the sisters finally made their way into the room. They seemed less chipper today, and they were wearing big oven mitts to carry a heavy pot of porridge between them. They set it on the stove and turned to give Hugh weary smiles. "Breakfast will be ready soon," Catrin said. "Porridge, and we'll add fresh berries once it's hot," said Kathy. "Sounds good," said Hugh. "How was your night?" "We were up late working on some preserves for the winter," said Catrin. "Oh?" said Hugh. "You sure you weren't up in my room trying to rob me?" There was a long moment of stunned silence. "Excuse me?" asked Kathy. "I said you were up in my room trying to rob me." Ha! How could we rob you?" laughed Catrin. "The sheriff already locked us away, and the thefts still happened. You locked the door from the inside, so how in the world would we rob you?" "Those stories may have worked on the sheriff," said Hugh, his fingertips starting to glow. "But you'll find that I look a little closer, and I know shapeshifters when I see them." The sisters looked at each other. "Take off the gloves," said Hugh, smiling. "No," said Catrin. "Why should we?" Hugh shrugged and waved his hand. The oven mitts caught fire, and the sisters shook them off their hands, yowling and cursing. They glared at Hugh and held their singed hands, or rather, their singed paws. "You're witches," said Hugh. "Ones that can turn into cats. You've been transforming, sneaking in through the chimneys, and robbing your guests. I'll give you credit, it's a good bit of magic." He smiled and nodded at the witch's hands, which were still stuck as cat paws. "As you've realized by now, I know a little magic myself, and not all that glitters is gold." Hugh winked, and a coin danced across his knuckles, then disappeared forever. "I enchanted my coins, so that when you stole them, it locked your thieving hands in their transformation. I'm afraid you'll have cat paws for good." "What? No!" wailed Kathy. "Hugh," said Catrin, "we can fix this. How can I make dessert with paws?" "Please, Hugh, let's talk. I can't even hold a spoon for pudding." "Relax," said Catrin, grabbing hold of her sister. "Hugh, please. We're sorry." "It's okay," said Hugh with a smile. "Your magic is strong, and I admire the skill. But I can't have you out here robbing people. You'll give witches and wizards a bad name." "We'll never rob again," said Catrin. "We swear," said Kathy. Hugh rubbed his short red beard and looked at the thieves with serious eyes. "All right, I'll fix you," said Hugh. "Thank you," they cried, holding up their paws. "No problem," said Hugh. "But if I get word of any more mischief out of here, all I have to do is snap my fingers and you'll be back on the kitty committee." "We've learned our lesson," said Kathy. "Good," said Hugh. "Now, how about some breakfast?" Hugh smiled and snapped his fingers. With flashes of flame, the sisters' hands returned to normal. They cheered and went to tend the porridge. From that day on, they never stole again, and Hugh stopped by whenever he was in the area. The sisters would roast a chicken, and Hugh would teach them more magic as they ate. It was a fast friendship, and deep in the mystic woods of Wales, they're still there, hosting weary travelers and practicing their magic. The end. Thanks for listening.